friends, and welcome to the Cozy Chaotic. A lot has happened in 2024 so far. I've been busy with work. This channel has been seeing absolutely amazing growth, which has been really exciting to see. And of course, when there's a lot going on, when everything is seemingly going great, burnout has approached. Honestly, it's a bit of a bummer when I've set all these goals and intentions for the new year, and now I just have found myself incredibly exhausted. But in my experience, the best thing to do is to listen to my body. So I did something a little bit interesting today, a little bit different. I took the entire day off of work, and I am not going on vacation. I don't have anything exciting planned to do today particularly. I decided I'm gonna spend the entire day today just reading. Personally, I find the best thing to do in situations like this is to listen to my body. And I started thinking about when I was in elementary school. We used to have these scheduled days sometimes where we would come to school and the only activity we had to do was bring a book and read. They were just entirely reading days. Some kids hated them. They were obviously my absolute favorite. And I was thinking, why don't I do that now? So today, the only thing on my to-do list is to read, and I am so excited. And even more so, I'm excited to bring you all along with me. We're gonna be finishing some books, starting some books, listening to audiobooks, and having bookish chats. Overall, just an incredibly literary day. So let's get going. Okay, so the first thing we're reading is Get a Life, Chloe Brown. It's about, and I'm reading from the back here, a chronically ill computer geek with a goal, a plan, and a list. After almost and not quite dying, Chloe Brown comes up with 7 directives to help her get a life. But it's not easy, and she needs a teacher and knows just the man for the job. Redford Red Morgan is a handyman with tattoos, a motorcycle, and more sex appeal than 10,000 Hollywood heartthrobs. He's also an artist who paints at night and hides his work in the light of day. She enlists Red's help in her mission to rebel, and she learns things about him that no spy session could teach her. So far, it's had some great enemies to lovers romance that still feels very respectful. And if you saw my last vlog, you may have noticed I was reading this book then as well, which goes to show how long it is taking me to read books sometimes these days. As somebody that writes professionally and writes in my free time, a lot of people assume that means I love reading, and I do. I've been a big reader ever since I was a kid. A lot of my best memories are curled up in the corner, hidden away, reading my favorite book. But honestly, when I went to college, I think reading was kind of ruined for me, and my relationship with it became dysfunctional. I was one of those kids that was reading at a college reading level very early on and was constantly striving to read the next more difficult book. I remember having a copy of The Great Gatsby, and I hid it behind the book we were supposed to be reading in the 5th grade. And because of that, I developed this identity of being a reader. and also a scholar of sorts. In university, I was doing so much reading and enjoying so little of it. I spent my time reading a lot of philosophy, a lot of classics, and those are also really great and can be very enjoyable, but the point wasn't to enjoy or really even take specific things away from the story. The point was to prove myself, to get a certain grade. And I found that even when I graduated and was reading not for a grade, I was still picking these books that were supposed to prove something to myself or to others. You know, I was the person who was gonna try and pick up War and Peace instead of reading like Fourth Wing, which is ridiculous because now I'm at this point where there truly is nothing to prove. And all that did was make me not enjoy reading anymore, which is a bummer because I truly do love it. I know I do. But every time I picked up a book, there developed this dread of, I'm not reading fast enough, I'm not reading well enough. I am not one of those YouTubers who's showing the 300 books a year that they read. In fact, I had never really listened to an audiobook until just a couple months ago. Because in my mind, that wasn't real reading, which is such a bad take for many reasons. And you know what? Since picking up audiobooks, I have gotten to experience more books than I have basically since I was in high school. We're only halfway through the month and I'm on my 5th or 6th read so far. And most importantly, I'm not doing it to prove anything. I'm just genuinely enjoying this new format that I neglected for so long. Hence, Get a Life, Chloe Brown. This is a romance book, and it's not Jane Austen. It's not gonna impress anybody that I've read it, but it is bringing me so much joy so far. And the reason it's taken me so long to read isn't because I've felt that dread. It's because I've been experiencing multiple stories at the same time, because I've thrown away a lot of those rules I gave myself before on how I should be reading. That said, I really should get to finishing this book. So thank you for listening to my little rant. Let's curl up, do some reading, and then once I'm done with this, I'll tell you what I think of the book and also explain what I'm doing differently this year that is making me fall in love with reading all over again. I hit a point in the story that's made me a little bit emotional and I want to talk about it. So as I mentioned before, this story is specifically about a chronically ill woman. I am a chronically ill woman, and I just got to a part where the main character, Chloe, is talking about developing her chronic illness. In her case, it's fibromyalgia, and what the reception was like for that. And wow, is it so powerful to see that experience documented in a story like this. I'm pretty involved in the community, I like to think. I have heard a lot of stories about disability, but never in just a rom-com story that a lot of people who are not in the community I know have read and recommended. In this chapter, Chloe talks about the sudden onset of her condition and how, though she was lucky that her family believed and supported her, many didn't. That is so close to what happened to me that it feels eerie, honestly. She talks about going to doctor's appointments and not being believed, and even has a story in there about her doctor asking specifically to talk to her father, even though she was an adult woman, and how they basically said, she's fine and you should look into her mental health, which everybody should be looking into and taking care of their mental health. But that implication and that gaslighting could really make you feel crazy after a while. I went into the diagnostic process just looking for help, needing help, and was really surprised by what I found. So to see a story highlight that issue in this way, while also not being a sad story, to see a love interest character who is dynamic, who struggles with chronic fatigue and uses different aids, to see a story that doesn't just happen to have a disabled character. It's very intentional. It is a big part of her experience and identity, but also it isn't everything. Whew, I am getting a little bit emotional. I'm gonna take a little break to eat. Honestly, I was just gonna heat up some leftovers, but I was thinking it would be really fun to do it out on the balcony and do a little reading picnic. So I'm gonna need some blankets because it is a little bit chilly, but let's go do that.
From Vianne, and began handing them out. Vianne took a seat.
You know those moments when you've just finished a great book? That's how I'm feeling right now. The air around you feels different almost. This was a good one and a fun one. It was about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, learning to trust others. It had that enemies to lovers trope, but was done in a way that felt really nice and romantic instead of mean-spirited in any way. At the end of the day, it was a lighthearted read. I mean, it's predictable, obviously, but I don't think that in any way diminishes how lovely this was to read today. And I'm really glad I got to finish up reading this book here in my book nook. I was thinking while I'm here, I could give you all a little bit of a tour. This is the first apartment I moved into post-college, so it's the first one that I really was intentional about decorating, making it feel homey, cozy, knowing I was going to be here for a while. And I actually didn't have this reading nook when I first moved in, which is so strange because it feels like such an important addition. Essentially, everything in it is thrifted. I am a huge thrift store person, not in like a cool, edgy way, but in a I love a good discount kind of way. The little nook here itself was a find on Facebook Marketplace. It had been refinished by somebody, which I have found to be kind of hit or miss sometimes. Somebody had found the piece at a thrift store, painted it, refinished it, added a new handle, and this person in particular just did such a great job. It's cute, it's cozy, it fit so perfectly into the space, and it had exactly what I was looking for. I really wanted a spot that could hold my writing supplies, so this is really great because it has this space here that can fit my entire printed manuscript, which is giant. Not because it's actually this long, but because it is super spaced out in this print. And admittedly, I am scared to read it again after my latest reread, but I love that the spot can fit that. It can also fit my little binder with different revision supplies. In the bottom here, it has the book nook itself. This isn't my primary shelf, but I use it to store all my writing related books. It's not only more organized, but you know what? Is what it is. I have The Artist's Way that I've mentioned in a previous video, and also this book is not a writing specific book, it's just a productivity book, but I find it really great and I recommend it, especially if you're an ADHD brain like me. We have the Anti-Planner by Danny Donovan. It has a bunch of different productivity techniques that are kind of unconventional. I actually made a whole video with writing advice for kind of unconventional brains, kind of unusual tips, and a lot of that kind of gamification process for me really came to life when reading this book, so I definitely recommend it to anybody. I also have some classics like Stephen King's On Writing. Then, as you'll notice, there's also a drawer. It has this beautiful inside wallpapering of flowers that is lovely, and I actually don't have that much in here right now, so let me know if you have any ideas of different writing utensils I can add. I have some highlighters, and then I also have these revision cards where I have every single scene written out and what is working with it, what's not working. Kind of helps me visualize the whole revision process. And it's also a perfect place to have bookmarks, so if I ever need one, they're right there to grab. In terms of the sitting space, I thrifted this adorable cushion. I don't know exactly where it's from because looking it up, I found many different versions of various prices. All I know is it's very comfortable. And then I use this space to store all of my plushies. I have oh so many, and I'm so glad that it is becoming kind of socially acceptable again to love stuffed animals as an adult. I know it's a big thing with squishmallows. I don't have that many squishmallows. I do have this guy here, but something about them just brings me so much joy, and I think we should allow ourselves that joy in this life. As you also may have noticed, I have my Switch here, all my different Switch games. I am such a fan of cozy gaming. I have this super cute skin that I added to give it kind of a pink gingham look, and then these little cat thumb grips that are chocolate covered strawberry. I like to think of this whole design as kind of a chocolate covered strawberry aesthetic, I don't know. In terms of other fun decor, I also have this handmade miniature I made. I really love miniatures. Something about assembling something so cute with my own hands makes it both sentimental and adorable, and I love that this one is a little writing desk. And then last but not least, I have my bookshelf. I actually don't have a giant bookshelf like I've noticed a lot of other booktubers, writers on YouTube have. Maybe one day I'll get there, but honestly, I listen to a lot of audiobooks, borrow a lot of library books that are returned or ebooks, so I just find that I don't have that many physical books. But the ones I do have up here really excite me. A lot of them were also thrifted finds. Some of these I've read, some of them I'm looking to read. Actually, the next one on here that I'm planning on starting to read today is Mexican Gothic. And it's all held together with these lovely chess piece bookends on my credenza, above the TV. I love to set on a nice ambiance, turn on the book nook lights, really get a mood going. I just find that it is such a special place in my house, and it really makes me excited. And luckily now I get to return Get a Life Chloe Brown to the shelf, take out Mexican Gothic, and we can start reading here. I showed it earlier, but I'm also listening to The Nightingale. It tells the story of two sisters in France during World War II as they resist the Nazi occupation. It has been an excellent historical fiction audiobook so far. Heartbreaking in a lot of ways, but also very beautiful. Now, let's get started on Mexican Gothic, and this is probably gonna be our last read of the day. It is almost 5 o'clock, so if I was working today, my workday would almost be over. And I am so grateful that I got to take this time off to recharge, to be here with you, to reconnect with a passion I've had. Let me know if you enjoy these kinds of videos. If you've read any of these books, let me know your thoughts, or if you have any similar recommendations. I'll say it now in case I don't get the chance to say it later. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.